There are fighters who move with grace, who glide across the canvas like dancers, whose style oozes with polish and technique. And then there was Butterbean, the wrecking ball of boxing and mixed martial arts. He wasn't a technician. He wasn't built like an athlete. He was chaos wrapped in a human body, a 350-pound thunderstorm that didn't need finesse to win. All he needed were 2 fists and a willingness to take your best shot before breaking you down completely. Butterbean, born Eric Esch, became a living embodiment of brute force, a man who proved that power, confidence, and fearlessness could outweigh years of training, perfect physiques, or spotless reputations. His career was an ongoing experiment in what happens when raw aggression meets opportunity. Standing at just 5'11" and tipping the scales at well over 350 pounds, Butterbean looked more like a man who'd be flipping burgers at a county fair than flattening professional fighters under the bright lights. But that's exactly what made him unforgettable. When fans saw him enter the ring, bald, barrel-chested, gut hanging slightly over his trunks, they didn't expect poetry. They expected mayhem. And he delivered it every single time. His rise was unconventional. Butterbean first gained attention through toughman competitions, where regular men brawled in short, explosive fights for bragging rights and cash prizes. There were no 12-round chess matches, no elegant footwork, no tactical standoffs. It was simple: 2 men enter, 1 gets knocked out. That format was perfect for Butterbean. He turned local fights into blood sport theater, mowing through everyone in front of him until promoters couldn't ignore his draw. When he transitioned to professional boxing, few took him seriously. To the purists, he was a sideshow, a circus act meant to fill seats and amuse crowds. But then the KOs started piling up. The doubters went quiet. The joke became a problem. Butterbean didn't fight like a boxer, he fought like a battering ram. He wasn't interested in dancing or defending. He wanted to stand in front of you, throw hammers, and end your night early. And more often than not, he did. He earned the nickname the King of the 4-rounders. His fights were short, violent, and decisive. You didn't need to wait long to see something spectacular: a man getting lifted off the ground by a punch, a corner towel flying into the ring, a crowd erupting as another opponent hit the canvas like a felled tree. Out of his 77 professional boxing wins, 58 came by knockout, each one more thunderous than the last. One of the most iconic came in December 1995, when Butterbean stepped into the ring at a career-low 300 pounds. His opponent, Louis Monaco, was strong, experienced, and confident. But from the opening bell, it was clear he had no idea what kind of storm he was facing. Butterbean walked him down, threw a single punch, and Monaco dropped instantly. Seconds later, a savage overhand right left him tangled in the ropes, motionless. The referee waved it off, and Butterbean barely broke a sweat. It was pure destruction, the kind of moment that reminded everyone that power in its simplest form is terrifying. But what truly defined Butterbean's legacy wasn't his domination of ordinary heavyweights. It was how he handled giants. The massive, muscle-bound monsters who thought their size would be enough to bully him. These were men who looked like comic book villains, tall, sculpted, terrifyingly strong. And yet Butterbean made them crumble. Take his fight in Pride 34 against Zuluzinho, a 6'7", 407-pound behemoth who towered over him like a skyscraper. Most experts called it a mismatch, expecting the Brazilian giant to crush Butterbean within minutes. But when the cage door closed, everything flipped. Butterbean wasn't intimidated. He closed the distance, reversed a takedown, and locked in an Americana submission, forcing the giant to tap out in the very first round. The crowd erupted. Commentators couldn't believe what they'd seen. Butterbean, the boxing showman, had just beaten a man nearly 100 pounds heavier and 8 inches taller, using technique and pure instinct. That night, he wasn't just a puncher. He was a symbol of what self-belief and ferocity can do again. Time after time, Butterbean stepped up against fighters who seemed unbeatable, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. The bigger they were, the harder they fell. His opponents often entered the ring with ripped physiques and chiseled jaws, posing for the cameras like demigods. But when the punches started flying, those muscles didn't mean a thing. Butterbean's fists had no respect for aesthetics. His fighting style was brutally simple: walk forward, plant your feet, and swing with everything you have. There was no wasted motion, no fancy footwork, just controlled chaos. For someone his size, his hand speed was shocking. He threw punches that looked slow on tape but landed before you could even blink. Every shot came from the hips, powered by the kind of torque only a man built like a bulldozer could generate. Inside the ring, Butterbean thrived on pressure. He didn't dodge, he didn't back up. If you hit him, he hit you harder. And while most fighters tried to measure distance, Butterbean erased it. He was always close enough to hurt you, and that's exactly what he did. But his story isn't without struggle. When the bright lights faded and the matchups got tougher, Butterbean's limitations started to show. His enormous frame, once a weapon, became a burden in longer fights. Against elite-level opponents, his stamina wavered. The pace he set early often burned out before the final bell. In MMA, where cardio and ground skills mattered more, he had to adapt quickly, and not every experiment succeeded. But even in defeat, Butterbean remained unapologetically himself. He never ran, never faked, and never pretended to be anything other than what he was, a man who would fight anyone, anywhere, anytime. His career became a living contradiction, a fighter mocked for his body but feared for his power. Fans loved him because he represented something primal, a kind of blue-collar toughness that said, "You don't need to look like a champion to hit like one." In every punch he threw, there was a story. The underdog rising, the doubted man proving everyone wrong, the so-called joke knocking another overconfident athlete senseless. When we talk about brutal karma, that's what we mean. Butterbean's victories weren't just about winning fights, they were about flipping narratives. The muscular giants underestimated him, the critics dismissed him, and he turned all of it into fuel. Every knockout was a lesson in humility. Every victory was karma served cold. Today, when people look back on his legacy, they see more than just the knockouts. They see the message behind them. In an era obsessed with perfection, with perfect bodies, perfect technique, perfect highlight reels, Butterbean stood as proof that imperfection could still dominate. He didn't need to look like a hero to fight like one. So when you watch those clips, the moments where he flattens men twice his size or taps out a 400-pound monster, you're not just seeing violence. You're seeing a story about willpower, about confidence, about refusing to fit the mold the world expects of you. Because when Butterbean fought, it wasn't just one man against another. It was belief versus appearance. It was the idea that heart beats hype. And time again, the man from Alabama made sure his fists had the final word. So here's the question that lingers long after the knockouts fade from the screen. Which of his giant-slaying moments stands out to you most? The one-punch demolition at 300 pounds, or the submission win over a 400-pound beast? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And remember, in the world of combat, power isn't always about muscles, and greatness doesn't always come wrapped in the perfect body. Sometimes, it comes in the form of a bald, smiling man named Butterbean, and the chaos he carried in his hands.